guys, and welcome back to another episode of It's Expensive, but Is It Good? Today we take a look at Swordmaster for the Nintendo Entertainment System. It's a game I actually got back when it was starting to get a bit pricey, around $50 to $60, but oh my god, what's happened to you? Apparently now the game is pushing $200 these days, and there has got to be a good reason for that, right? I've had it up on the shelf for years, major problems with game collecting these days, and was shocked to see that the price has gone up about $150 in the last few years. Plot twist, I've also seen this game on a couple of the hardest NES games lists as well, so let's just see how brutal this one gets. The plot's simple, you just have to make your way to a castle to fight a wizard that's teamed up with a serpent god, and being the brave knight that you are headed straight to the castle as soon as you heard about it. The intro music is cool, but funny at the same time, since it sounds like your NES is going through puberty a little bit, trying to hold some of its notes. The music in general, though, is pretty awesome, and I do feel pumped to press forward with the action in Swordmaster. There are 7 challenging levels here, which take you through the woods, a town, dungeon, and a couple castles, which all look great. The graphics are pretty darn impressive with scrolling effects too. There is a heavy emphasis on one-on-one combat, where you must adapt, be strategic, and smart with your sword and shield, truly living up to its name. The basics to know, while you have a standard sword swing, holding up while attacking has you swinging overhand, tomahawk style. Pressing up while standing still draws your shield to protect against some attacks and projectiles from above. And ducking also draws your shield while you can poke out as well. The jumping is interesting since it's a lot faster to jump than walk, and you can also mid-air jump if you walk off a ledge, which is pretty different. The game does have a lot of cool things going for it, and do set it apart. The first thing you'll notice is your experience bar right next to your life. Once it fills, you gain HP, and leveling up is as simple as taking down some enemies. Makes sense. Awesome thing about leveling up is your game actually keeps your upgraded health even though you have to go back to stage 1 during game overs. Even if you reset the game, your stats are still intact, but only once you power off is your progress lost. As you beat a few levels, you actually gain the ability to summon a mage character that can use its different magic spells. Doing a charged strong attack with him, though, actually costs you an experience point. While the short-range magic is almost useless, you can charge for a full-ranged attack, although you can't move left or right while holding it. You can jump with the attack, though, which may have been an oversight on their part. I can't imagine they thought it would made sense for the charging to immobilize your walking, but oh yeah, jumping, that's obviously not a problem. The mage actually controls just like the feel of Joe and Mac on the Game Boy when they're charging, which is a pretty weird but accurate connection to make. The weird thing about it is you definitely don't need to use the mage at all, and it's kind of wild that it exists, to be honest. It's really an interesting and pretty cool feature that really did not have to be created. Your character controls fine, although a little strange. He's surprisingly quick and maneuverable. Your jump is immediate even if you're still swinging your sword, so you can really go nuts during the fights. But it does have to be controlled chaos, since your one-on-one fights can and will absolutely punish your mistakes. While there are absolutely some pretty tricky and tight spots and levels, like where these eyeballs just won't get the hell out of your way, and platforms can be definitely a bit finicky on the edges for better or for worse. Or when you have to avoid bouncing balls, spears coming in and out of the ground, along with rocks that fall with knockback, if you're not careful. But the real challenge are the marathons of boss fights, and oh man, these will absolutely push you. While I was able to get to the last stretch of bosses during my first sit down with the game ever, after only 30 minutes, I wasn't able to get through this without some serious soul searching and practice. But once I was able to actually beat the game for my first time, I did it again in 18 minutes, then again in 17 minutes, and no joke, I did it a 4th time in a row when I couldn't beat it on my first day with the game in under 16 minutes. And the thing is, I had a lot of fun doing it. While the game was frustrating me at first since I relied so heavily on just jump bashing enemies on the head 100% of the time, I hit a brick wall at the end because it takes a bunch of the bosses from before to fight in a row and has real challenge. You have to be a cognitive player at this point, otherwise there's no way you're getting through it. This was definitely the highlight of the game for me, so let's just talk about it. The final stretch starts you off with a skeleton who has slightly less reach than you, so just a mix of jump bashing or pressing toward him with some slashing is enough for this guy. Then you have a green lizard with a sword and likes to jump kick. Seems like the inspiration for those guys from Ocarina of Time. You have to look out for when he jumps multiple times in a row, but using your overhead attack is very important since it can result in multiple hits against a lot of enemies, seemingly due to its extra frames of animation and hitboxes associated with it. Between the fights, there are some bats that are good to kill, not just for experience, but also for health to keep you going. Next is the boss from level 2, the Blue Knight. This guy actually does have longer reach than you with his straight-on attack, so this is where the unorthodox strategies like jumping all over with an overhead swing in and out of range without getting too close is the easiest way to get through this thing. It's pretty weird, but this is honestly what works. After him we have the Barbarian, an axe-wielding boss from level 6, where you just came from. He also has decent range, so jumping in and out with a swing is a good strategy, but he can also throw his axe, so not only do you want to avoid this, but you want to use this opening with well-timed jumps to give this guy the business. He can actually sometimes back you into the corner, and this is where you need to seize your moment and fight for your life. The next one is a new fight, against a golden knight that can either put out a slow, tall projectile out, or he will kneel to shoot out a quick, low one. Can definitely be tricky at first, but a combo of jumping into attack while also not getting careless, and kneeling to use your shield accordingly is how to get through this guy without taking too much damage. Just jump over the low one and block the tall one. The fight after that is the Silver Knight, and according to the manual, this is the Golden Knight's brother separated at birth, but they were both brought back together to defend the castle. That's pretty cool. His spike shooting mace requires a well-timed jump, plus you need to block or stand in the right place for his other attack that comes from overhead. But this next fight with this damn wizard is when shit gets pretty serious. His projectiles that go out in front, along with his lob throws that shoot up on impact with the ground, is a tough combination that heavily punishes poor positioning or ill-advised jumps, and can summon lightning. This is where the difficulty curve hit me the hardest, and everything I did before this to get here felt like a house of cards. But in classic Swordmaster style, you can overcome it with observation and quick reflexes. It's extremely engaging and a great rewarding fight that I hated at first since I couldn't get away with being cheap anymore, but it forced me to appreciate the game a lot more than I would have if I just gotten through this without improving first. As the health gets low, the lightning is used more and more, making it hard to get in and time your approach. You know, I would never want to make this comparison lightly, but the way you really have to consider your decisions during combat along with its medieval style, I really cannot help but think about Dark Souls. While a lot of people like to throw that reference out there, maybe jokingly, like with Castlevania games and the dreaded G&G series, I would have to say that Swordmaster though actually makes a lot of sense, since it's not just the fact that it's hard with a similar theme, but the fact is its combat really gets your brain juices flowing, and that any fight can become dangerous is where I definitely feel the similarity. Finally, after all those fights, we do reach a checkpoint, thank God, which is surprisingly generous and fair of the game, since every death before this would mean starting the level over against the skeleton fight again. This dude isn't actually very challenging if you play it safe in the bottom left corner with your shield, only jumping out once you can get your shots in, and only careless play should result in damage on this form. But once this fight is over, nothing can brace your eyes and ears for the insanity that is the final fight against Vishak, the Serpent God. Whoa, now that is really intense. It's like, how can you even get close to this? I even tried to switch up to the mage to try taking him down one shot at a time from long range. I was thinking this is the only way I could get through it because everything was just so dangerous, but when I couldn't shoot any more magic, I had to get in there. Carefully watching the fire, trying to time it with the little rock that flies your way, and hitting its weak point also summons lightning, so you better duck with your shield or get the hell out of there. It's a lot to keep track of, and it's an intimidating fight. So when I had just one life left, I decided to try that one thing that hasn't really worked at any point in the rest of the game, brute force. I figured, what if I could just jump in there with up attacks and just accept the fact that I'm going to get hit, and well, here we have it. Just a straight dogfight to the death, and it didn't even start out well, but I felt like if I could just selectively avoid a couple things, or at least really focus on causing damage, that the tides would eventually turn. And you know what? They did. Alright, so Swordmaster. It's actually a pretty awesome game, but the thing is, it's definitely not for everybody, because it is hard. I really enjoy the way you can keep your upgraded health. That definitely balances things out, and the fact they gave you a checkpoint after that wizard fight is huge. Like, very unexpected, very courteous of them, and it's like they did think about, this is a hard game, maybe we should do a couple things to balance it, so I can appreciate it in that way. Is it worth $200? I don't know, man. I guess the people are willing to pay that much for it, but you know, it is fun to pop in and play. The fact is, you can get to the final part of the game in like 15 minutes, and that's tempting. It's nice to know, like, if you have 30 minutes to game, you have something for it. Swordmaster, why not plug that in and just pound it out? It's fun every time. But as always, guys, I want to thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing the video, subscribing. That definitely helps my channel grow, and I look forward to seeing you so much for the next review. Thanks again, and have a great day.